Paldea Evolved has made the Pokemon TCG 10 times better. There are so many new combinations to play and the game is feeling fresh again. What's up everyone, Smart TCG here, and let's hop into my top 10 decks in the competitive Pokemon TCG. If you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Alright, let's hop into it. Alrighty, hopping into number 10 here, we have Gardevoir EX with Mewtwo V Union. This is a deck that saw quite a bit of play in the Scarlet and Violet format, but has some new tricks with a brand new set Paldea Evolved. Cards like Reversal Energy provide a great boost to Gardevoir's Brainwave attack. It also opens up lots of other attackers like Gallade and Luxray. Here's a list that I've constructed for the deck, and I think it really is powerful. The biggest issue with Gardevoir Mewtwo V Union is its consistency, which I think is the one thing that is holding it back from being a higher up ranked deck. It has been performing relatively solid in Japanese events, so there is some data to back it up. How it performs at NAIC is yet to be seen, but it definitely makes a strong deck. Your strategy is to use the Curlia's Refinement to throw your Mewtwo V Union pieces into the discard pile to then use Mewtwo V Union to be able to use its powerful attacks like Psy-Splosion, which help turn matchups that might necessarily be known as difficult like Lost Box into relatively decent matchups. So when you're able to set up, the deck is incredibly powerful. However, the deck does occasionally struggle to get there. You have some other brand new cards like Luxray with that Reversal Energy, which helps counter decks like Lugia VStar and Gallade, which is going to do great against those decks like Arceus. The deck has everything it needs, it's just the consistency that's been holding it back, but it makes a pretty strong deck. Coming in at number 9, we have Giratina VStar. Giratina, paired up with the Lost Zone engine, has seen consistent play since its release in Lost Origins. Its powerful Lost Impact attack is able to take down some of the most powerful Pokemon in the game, and its V-Star attack, Star Requiem, allows you to knock out anything you like in one swift blow. Here's a list that I've currently built for the deck. Jet Energy and Artisan provide great flexibility and consistency that this deck was severely lacking, and cards like Iono provide strong draw support in the early game and great disruptions towards the end. Giratina still has all the tools that it needs to be successful, but the one big thing holding it back is the Lost Box matchup. Whether or not it can rise above those rough matchups is remaining to be seen. However, I do think that if you can dodge those Lost Box decks, I think you got a pretty good shot at doing well. Alrighty, next up on the list, we have a brand new archetype from Paldea Evolved being Tinglu. In my opinion, a lot of people have been heavily underrating this deck, but I think it is one of the stronger decks in the standard format. Tinglu EX's Curse Land ability prevents all non-Pokemon EX abilities from functioning if those Pokemon have any damage counters on it, and Tinglu is also in the active spot. Decks like Shen Pao EX, Lugia VStar, Mew VMAX, and more all rely on those abilities to be able to set up, and Tinglu is able to shut those down. Its attack Land Scoop deals a relatively respectable 150 damage and puts 2 damage counters on one of their benched Pokemon. Cards like Giratina EX and Gutsy Pickaxe will aid in powering up this Pokemon, as 3 Fighting Energy is kind of difficult to set up currently in the standard format, so Giratina EX and Gutsy Pickaxe will be the way that we are able to do this. I think as long as you're able to set up an early Land Scoop attack and shut down your opponent's most critical abilities, then this deck definitely has a chance to shine. The one thing holding it back though is if your opponent is able to break through this ability, your attacks are relatively weak and you can kind of be ran over. Great deck, and I expected to see quite a bit of play. Next up at number 7, we have Fusion Mew. With players hyping up the brand new cards like Spiritomb and many decks still running Drapion V, it unfortunately seems like Turbo Mew's time might be coming to an end for now. However, Fusion Mew is still one of the most powerful decks in this format. Spiritomb, although powerful, does not shut down Genesect V's Fusion Strike system if it has a Fusion Strike energy attached to it. Paired up with Ice Cube being thrown into brand new fusion lists, Mew has adapted once again to counter the brand new anti-Mew cards. It seems like every year Pokemon prints a bunch of cards that are built to hurt Mew, but the deck keeps surviving format after format. Here's a list that I've constructed. Its consistent success in online events and tournaments in Japan and Taiwan have proven that this deck is here to stay and will remain a force in the metagame. Veloetta being able to one-shot almost any Pokemon on the very first turn remains as strong as ever, and Cross Fusion Strike for Technoblast never gets old. Fusion Mew continues its dominance in the standard format, and I think will keep its spot on this list for quite some time. Mew apparently never dies. The big question though is DT Mew gonna come back, and that remains to be seen. Next up on the list, we have Arceus Giratina. Now, we already saw Lost Zone Giratina on the list, but I think Arceus Giratina has a little bit more going for it as of right now. Starbirth has remained one of, if not the most powerful abilities in the trading card game, and Trinity Nova is as strong as it's ever been. Giratina paired up with Choice Boat is able to knock out most threats in the standard format with its Lost Impact, and Bibarel and Skobit provide much needed consistency. Arceus Giratina remains relatively the same, however Iono is a great new inclusion for this deck. Here is a list that I've constructed, and as stated before, this deck does not change very much with the brand new set, except Professor's researches have been replaced with Iono. Arceus Giratina still is as strong as ever, and the additional hand disruption makes it even better. Judge Path, or Iono Path now, is just an incredibly powerful strategy at disrupting your opponent, and I think is going to be seen in lots of decks. Judge Path is still as good as it ever has been. Next up on the list, hopping into the top 5 now, we have Turbo Lost Box. This variant of Lost Box has been widely popularized in previous formats, and I think it remains just as good in this one. Although Iono can cause issues, having cards like Trekking Shoes, Force Seal Stone, Pokestop, and now Artisan make the deck more adapt to hand disruption. Here's a list that I've currently constructed for the deck. Artisan makes an appearance in this list, allowing you to establish more stable board states in the early game. Dragonite V, Raikou V, and Drapion V all serve useful purposes in their own right, and also open up the use of Force Seal Stone. Many thought that Iono would destroy Lost Box, but it is still alive and well. The deck is still one of the most powerful decks in the format, and it seems like no one's able to stop it. But there are a couple of decks that I think are just a little bit better, as they are just a little bit more consistent, and I do think have a slightly better matchup spread overall. Alright, let's hop into the next one. Hopping into number 4, we have another brand new archetype from Paldea Evolved, being Shen Pao EX. Some people think this deck is underrated, and some think it is incredibly overrated. My opinion currently stands in the middle. Shen Pao EX's ability Shivery Chill allows you to search for 2 water energy and put it into your hand, and Hail Blade can deal almost unlimited damage. The Baxcalibur and Lugia VStar engine is what we'll be using in this deck to consistently power up our Shen Pao. Here is the list that I currently have constructed. As of right now, Shen Pao has been a glass cannon in testing for me. When it sets up, it can beat pretty much anything, however, it does struggle sometimes in the early game to establish a consistent board state. That is why I have made this list as consistent as it possibly can, because as long as it sets up, it is really difficult to beat. This is a deck that I think is far from optimized, however, as soon as someone finds the perfect list, I think it is going to absolutely take off. Shen Pao is all the hype as of right now, and I think it does deserve a spot in the top 5. Moving into the top 3, we have Lugia VStar. It seems that Lugia VStar never dies, and I think it is going to remain a top deck. Lugia VStar's Summoning Star ability allows you to get multiple Archeopses on the field to power up your strong attackers like Tyranitar, Stonejourner, Yveltal, and even Lugia. Brand new cards like Iono and Squawkabilly provide much needed consistency for the deck and allows you to flourish much more than it did previously. Here is a list that I've constructed for the deck. Jet Energy is the new special energy included in this deck, and it provides a great boost in flexibility. One of the biggest things going for this deck is it arguably has the best Lost Box matchup on this list, and it can honestly beat anything once it gets going. Lugia seems to keep getting better and better, and I think it will remain a top deck in the standard format. One important thing to note is that I currently do not have single strike Urshifu VMAX in this list, with decks like Gudra VStar and Duraludon not being particularly powerful as of right now. I think that you can omit the single strike Urshifu and focus a little bit more on consistency and Tyranitar, Stonejourner, and Yveltal. Overall, this deck rocks as of right now, and Lugia never seems to die. Alright, let's hop into number 2. Alrighty, hopping into that number 2 deck, we have Lost Box Kyogre. I personally prefer the Kyogre version over the Turbo one due to Arceus VStar and Lugia still remaining present currently in the format, and Kyogre naturally doing significantly better versus those big HP decks. On top of this, Kyogre is much more adept to handling Iono, as it typically takes its final 4 to 5 prize cards on that last turn of the game, significantly weakening Iono throughout the game. Here is the list that I currently have built for the deck. I have chosen to run the Zamazenta as of right now, as it hits perfect numbers against brand new cards like Shen Pao, which is expected to see a lot of play and also hits very well into decks like Arceus and Lugia. Cards like Artisan provide an awesome boost in consistency, and Super Rod allows you to consistently get back Pokemon and energy. Not having to rely on a supporter being Clara as your Pokemon and energy recovery is absolutely fantastic, and you can worry about using Course's Experiment more often instead of Clara, which will allow you to burn through your deck to get to the bottom to use Kyogre's Aqua Storm much more consistently. Lost Box Kyogre, still one of the best decks in the format, and I think is going to perform exceptionally well in upcoming tournaments. Hopping into the number one deck currently in the standard format, this may come to no surprise, but we have Gardevoir EX. Gardevoir EX was one of the strongest decks in the Scarlet and Violet format, and it still reigns supreme in Paldea Evolved. Gardevoir EX's Psychic Embrace allows you to power up powerful attackers like Gardevoir Shining Arcana and Zacian V with its Storm/Attack. Let's take a look at the list as of right now. Cards like Reversal Energy provide a massive boost in damage output, with cards like Gardevoir Shining Arcana and Super Rod provides great recovery that this deck desperately needed. Lost Box was one of this deck's most difficult matchups, and Iono provides a great comeback mechanic against one of the most popular and also one of the most difficult matchups that this deck has. This deck has it all. It can pretty much beat anything when it gets set up, and it is relatively consistent as well. One of the big things that this version has over the Mewtwo V Union one is just that extra speed and consistency. Overall, this deck is an absolute slam dunk, and you can't really go wrong with it. At number one, Gardevoir EX. I don't expect this to move anytime soon. However, I do expect players to potentially start to counter it a little bit harder if the deck performs very well right out of the gate, especially at the North American International Championships. But as of right now, it is absolutely smooth sailing, and I think it makes the best choice as of right now if you're trying to play the most powerful deck. Gardevoir, absolutely amazing. Anyways, that is going to do it for me today. If you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It's the best way to help me out as a creator, and push that little notification bell as well to stay up to date when my content goes live. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much as always. This is Smart TCG, and I'll speak with you again soon. Peace.